Okay, so we're talking about the kid being removed from the JV team.
Yes.
Go ahead. I thought you wanted to say something about that. I don't remember now. We took a
Um,
little break and
it was just I just found it strange that the kid was going to be removed um, from the team, and I think at this point it was like mid-season,
I
maybe
don't know. It's such a blur for me.
somewhere
I don't know.
in that time frame. I think it was mid-season.
I don't
Um,
even know if we'd made it that far, honestly. I think he lost most of the season because of
it
it.
might have been like this might have been like week 2 of the season. Don't quote me on
Yeah,
it.
and like we can't have full opinions because we weren't there for all of it. We don't
Right.
know what happened with all of it. Things that I know, conversations weren't taken care of correctly. I don't think that it was taken as seriously as it needed to be, and I think that that's what upset the family so much. I've been there, I get it, which is why I was willing to talk to her. So I had mentioned that there was a parent from our team that, has history with her, and in a conversation, I said something along the lines of being willing to talk to her. She showed up right then. Like we were in practice. I don't
Yes.
even know if you were over at practice yet, but she showed up. Now she wasn't allowed on school property because she got banned, and it was like made so big that she was, I believe that they were told they weren't even allowed on school property at that point, right? I
I
think.
think
I
so.
think.
I
Don't quote
don't.
us.
Yeah.
Um, so she showed up and he's like, "Hey, she's here to talk to you." And I'm like, we're practicing, and like I didn't mean right now, but I'm not going to tell her no either,
Right.
because I feel like she is looking for the opportunity for somebody to listen to her, to hear what she's saying, to actually hear, instead of brushing it off or being scared and trying to ignore and deflect. And this is my opinion, but it's what I was watching happen from the board perspective. Now, when I say the board, I'm going to tell you this flat out. It was Ryan Wilson doing all of the talking, and everybody on that board, with maybe the exception of one person, agreeing with every word he said and backing him on everything. And the entire board, except for a few people, I can't say entire board, the majority of that board were just following whatever he wanted them to do.
Yeah.
They were. It was like they had no opinions of their own. It was like they weren't even willing to say, "Hey, let's talk about this. Why did this happen?" It was he walked in and he said, ABC, and they went, "Okay." Like I watched this happen. So this is me saying I was watching this happen, and I went, "Man, am I glad that I got back on this board, because that's not how this is supposed to go."
So
So he got removed.
he got removed.
I talked to her. There was chatter in the group text of the board of people freaking out because she was on school property. She wasn't. A board member said, I could go back and pull it up. I will pull it up if I have to. If somebody asks for it, I'll get that out. But they said something along the lines of being told a board member was talking to her. And I text right back and I said, let's be direct about this. It was me talking to her.
Mhm.
It has taken me up until the last month, probably, to wonder why I have been treated differently and why it's progressively gotten worse. And I just finally realized that it's because I had let that mom talk to me, and I heard what she said, and I gave her an opportunity, and I didn't just follow suit of what Ryan Wilson wanted everybody to do. So I then had a mark on me, because from that point forward, I was treated differently. Now let's backtrack again. He got kicked off the team. We were putting together this tournament team to go to
Yeah, we're at the end of
Pinkerton.
our season now.
Mm-hmm. So we're building a team with kids, because when you go to a tournament team, do you take a kid because their dad's a coach?
No, when
No.
you take a tournament team, those teams are built up of the best kids,
Top
the
athletes.
top athletes, and the best players.
Mm-hmm.
And
You are
listen,
going to win a tournament.
as a coach, I want every kid to hit the
For
field. I want
sure.
every kid to play.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're building a tournament team, you're building a tournament team to go down there to make a statement and try to pull off something that is very, very, very difficult.
It's
to
not
do.
regular season. You're not
No,
learning.
it's
You're
not.
going up against hard football players when you go into something like that. If
So
you take a kid who's not ready, what's going to happen to them?
they're in that particular, what I learned from the very first time, which was last year going down there, um, if you take a kid that's not prepared or doesn't have the knowledge and has taken the coaching, they can potentially get hurt because you're dealing with kids on those teams, those other teams you're going to face. Those teams are built out of the same thing. They're built out of the best players from that community.
It's a tournament. It's not a regular season.
It's not a regular
You're
season.
not learning the basics and the fundamentals. You have those kids who are just monsters from go. Those kids who watch football on TV before they even played it, and they had an understanding of it before they were being taught by a coach.
Right.
That's the kind of kid you find on a tournament.
And you're also like, the one thing I learned from my experience down there was like the teams that you go up against, those kids are getting coached at a very high level.
Oh yeah,
even higher
yes.
than I was coaching. And I actually stepped my
at
game
8 years
up,
old.
and I stepped my game up coaching our tournament team. I had 5 weeks to get our team, kids that didn't play together the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get them and form them into
Right.
what we were running offensively, what we were doing defensively, our terminology, making them understand every aspect of what we were doing, because I wasn't going to change
The way you coach.
my offense or
Yeah.
the way I coach or anything like that.
So you piece together
So I
a team.
pieced together a team. I think we ended up
You
taking
did.
24 kids.
The point of all of this, though,
The point of all this is
the kid that got kicked off,
I wanted to have him back. I felt like he kind of got shafted on his season,
mhm,
and
we went about it all the right way. So, like we said, this team was not affiliated with BCMFL.
right, they wore a Warrior uniform.
They did, but if they weren't a Warrior, they had to buy their own uniform.
Right.
We borrowed equipment that the board approved for us to use.
And equipment.
And you contacted,
I
you contacted the high school appropriately to get permission to use the field.
I also discussed.
And you also.
I discussed that I wanted to bring this kid on this tournament team.
And he knew everything.
And the person that I had to talk to had already known everything. And I said, before you say anything, I've already made it very clear to the mom and the uncle and everybody affiliated with this kid that I was not going to tolerate anything. They were to drop him before practice and pick him up. They were not allowed to stay at practices with him.
And that wasn't us being jerks.
No,
that was us
just
making sure he had an opportunity.
That he had an opportunity. And
like giving him a chance because we felt that he was wrong.
We didn't need a chance of anything to happen. Now, with that conversation with them, they understood. They were 100% for it. They thanked me for the opportunity of bringing him on.
And we didn't have any issues.
And we had no issues. And I mean no issues for 5 weeks of practice, no issues in Columbus for the entire weekend at this particular at this tournament.
I think that they were grateful that he was given a chance, to get
to the point where some of these kids, these parents come in, and by the second practice, I had parents coming up to me and even coming up to Alex saying, our kids didn't get coached like that this year. Like we had
kids who had just played a whole season.
Yeah.
And when I started conditioning them with our team, it was like they were just conditioning for the first time all season. They weren't ready for our program at all.
I had dads.
And we had to work them in that amount of time.
I mean, I remember I had a dad.
And they were coached by other Buckeye coaches. I have to say that. Like some of these kids were. So we were trying to do something completely different to kind of rebrand our youth league a little bit and give these kids more opportunity.
I mean, I was running
to be successful.
I was running lineman drills, and I had a dad when I got done with that drill and sent them for water, walk up to me, goes, I am astonished on what you are coaching them. He goes, I actually have goosebumps. I've never seen a youth coach do that and explain that to them like that. And I said, they have to know it. Like if they don't know it now, they're it's going to be harder for them to learn it when they get to the bigger level.
Right.
So it made me feel like I was really doing something good for
you were.
for
so
these kids.
We had people who were just shocked and awed at the difference in that little bit of time where they were
So
coached under your staff.
apparently, at some point, when somebody noticed that that kid was on my team, um, two of the board members, the president and the vice president, apparently went to the high school person that is in charge of things at the high school and kind of went, I'm going to just say it, kind of crying and whining to him that I brought him back. And he said, it's a tournament team. He's got everything under control. Until there's a problem, there's no problem, basically.
So then at that point, I got a conversation. I had a phone call. We were at work.
Yep.
Ryan Wilson called me freaking out,
Yep.
saying that he was told that he's going to be on our team. And then the issues just started to grow from there. So I said to him, yeah, he is. Chuck did everything according to what he should have done to get permission for it to be okay. And if you want to talk about it, you can talk to him. And then I'm pretty sure you had a phone call.
I think he called me minutes later.
Uh-huh.
And I said, yes, I went through these steps. I already put the rules in place. Everybody's abiding by them, or he will not be on the team. And he didn't really know what to say to me because there really wasn't much he could say to me at that time. So now, then Buckeye ends up taking a 10U team, which is a JV team, and they end up taking a 12U team, which is a varsity team, also to Pinkerton. They were eliminated the very first day. Our very first game down there, we had to play the year before defending champions, and we won that game 14-12.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it wasn't a big blowout score, but we went down there and beat them. And it was at that point, I'm like, hey, we might actually have a shot to do something down here. And then by the end of that day, I realized that the other Buckeye teams had been eliminated. Like, they didn't make it through the first day.
And it's not that we wanted that to happen.
No.
So what is your reason for talking about that? Because you worked hard to get there? Because you built a team?
We worked hard to get there as a team, as a coaching staff. But as a head coach, I kind of didn't know what to expect down there. And I realized real quick that I had to completely change how I was looking at the game. And I still say to this day, I think I did probably some of my best coaching in those 2 days in Columbus, as far as the kids, coaching them, keeping their spirits high, clock management, just things that you don't normally think about in a when you're trying to go through season. And realizing the competition that was down there was very high competition. Long story short, we end up making it to the championship game, where we fell short. We lost that game by I think a touchdown, or maybe 2 scores. But our kids played their butts off in cold, rainy, nasty weather. Like Saturday, we played 2 games, and then on Sunday we had to play 2 games to get to that championship game. But I took 24 kids down there, and all 24 of my kids hit the field and played, and not just one play. They played series. They played X amount of downs. We passed the ball around to every one of our skilled players. Every kid got to feel like they contributed down there.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought home a second place trophy, and all those kids brought home second place trophies. Mm. And it made the world look completely different football wise, but it was heartwarming for me to see those kids and how happy they're, even though they just come off the field of getting beat, of missing that championship game by very little, considering what we were up against. but they were so happy and so ecstatic, and the parents were absolutely crazy. And when we started this thing, I told the parents, we're guaranteed 2 games down there. That may be all we get to play. I don't know what we're kind of going into, but it was a lot of fun, and I hope to do it next year again.
So I want to backtrack a little bit more with the whole tournament team stuff. When I got that phone call questioning him being on our team, it was just like constantly freaking out from there, to the point that he had called me and asked me to let me know what hotel we were going to stay at to make sure we weren't at the same hotel as them. And I have the text right here. Wednesday, October 9th, 2024 at 1:42 p.m. We are staying at Country Inn and Suites down in Pickerington. And I said, okay. We weren't at the same hotel. We weren't looking for problems, And the fact that they were freaking out so much just made me more uncomfortable with the whole situation. Because if I'm being honest, I haven't trusted that guy from the first time I met him. The way that he conducted himself, things that he said. The first time I met him was in a board meeting. I'm not even sure if he was on the board at that point. He just made me uncomfortable. And usually when I feel something like that, I'm usually right about it. Not somebody I think about often. Currently somebody I'm kind of stuck thinking about too much. So then a couple days later, I get a text from him asking me if Brock got a coach's shirt. And then he said, he asked for his size so we can make sure to get him a sweatshirt. So Brock was our mentor then, but he was also your offensive coordinator.
He was my offensive coordinator because he took our high school plays, right. And kind of, I don't want to use the word dumbed them down, but simplified.
He modified them. Yeah,
simplified them, but with same terminology and same formations for these younger kids to understand, and know how to run and know the terminology.
Right. So he was supposed to be your mentor. He turned into being your offensive coordinator because most of you watching this know what an amazing person he is. That he has very high football IQ, that he's an amazing football player himself, that he loves these kids. I mean, he would go from school to practice to walk over to our practice to help coach these kids to be good football players and good people. And he fell in love with them. But you have this where he's being included and getting a coach's shirt and like he's part of the team and everything. And then things just kept getting more and more weird from there. So we got through that tournament, and then we were moving up to JV for this year. And the other head coach from freshman was still down a year.
Yes.
So the league was rebranded. That's what happened next. The league was rebranded. So in December, they do the nominations for the board. Now, one thing that I think is super important is when you were president, remember how we changed the bylaws to make sure that the board was not controlled by one team?
Yeah, and that was one of the
It doesn't matter why we did it, but what exactly was it? What was the change that was made?
The change was made that not one team could
control the majority,
right? Could have more than 49% of the vote, because that's kind of what was happening prior to me becoming president. So one of the first things I did was 2 things. If you're the president, you cannot be a head coach. That's a conflict of interest. And it wasn't like that before.
Well, it's hard because you can't really do both of those jobs well at the same time.
The second thing that I wanted to amend was no team can have more than 49% of the board vote on one team. That's including cheer and football together.
Mind you, when you and I left the board, I was told that that was one of the first things that was taken out of the bylaws.
Right.
And the current board, like when I had rejoined as a trustee last year, that board was made up of pretty much everybody being on the same team between cheer and football.
Yeah.
And so then they were all just following suit of Ryan Wilson and whatever he said and whatever he did and whatever he wanted. And nobody would question anything. Nobody wanted to be, involved more. There's a lot. I can't lose track of all of this. So one of the most important things to talk about is the way that the board was being run. And then that leads into, the whole reason that I mentioned Brock with the coaching shirt thing. But I think that the way that the board was being run kind of needs to come first. So when I was in meetings, there was never financial reports given. Quite often the treasurer would sit there like thumbing through things during the meeting and rattle off some numbers. There was never a printed financial report put in the hands of the board members like it was supposed to have been weekly, during season weekly, and then monthly in the off season. That was never presented. And from what I understand, the treasurer and the vice president were the only ones who knew what was going on with our money.
Yeah, at that point, you were involved more than me because I wasn't at board.
And nobody questioned anything. Everybody just trusted it to happen. There weren't receipts being shown. There weren't deposits being shown. It would be like, I deposited this from the concession stand. Where's your documentation for that? Where is the bank statement that the executive members should be reviewing and signing off on, stating that they have gone over everything that's moved through that account? Because that's the way that it's supposed to have been done. None of that was being done. So we had no clue what was going on with our finances. And I'm at this point sitting there quietly watching, just watching, waiting to see how all this is going to shake out, right? So then that turns into the president and the vice president working behind the scenes outside of the bylaw committee to rebrand the league. How in depth do you want to go with all of that?
Well, I mean, you can hit on the key points. They ended up getting their way. The league was...
Well, yeah, I mean, the way that the rebranding was done was wrong.
Yes.
It was wrong. All of it was wrong.
Yeah.
And it was okay for it to be done that way because nobody was doing checks and balances on anything. Whatever they wanted to do was just okay. They were just trusting them. They didn't care. Nobody cared enough to question. And when you don't question, that's when things start to go wrong. That's when things start to get out of hand. So the league got completely rebranded to having 7 members of the board instead of 15.
Right.
When we went into the meeting for elections, you were with me.
I was.
And I knew beforehand that Ryan Wilson had been contacting people and asking them if they would take positions on the board. You're not allowed to do that. That's not how elections are done. So he had preset everybody he wanted to have and every position on the board, and they all knew to vote for each other. And they were all in that group together. So they were going to do that. They had control over everything. So at that point, presidential nominations, I was nominated by somebody to run against him. And he won the vote because none of them were going to vote for me.
Right.
And I didn't expect them to, but then I get nominated for vice president. Sure. Josh Newhart wins. The bylaws were changed to close our league down, to get rid of, I want to say to get rid of the problems from the previous year, because that's how I hear it. That's how I feel it. That's my opinion of it.
Yeah, and my opinion is not all of those people were problems.
They weren't. We lost a lot that we should not have lost. It was people who were trying to build in a different league.
And I understand, like I said, and I've said it 100 times, but I'm going to say it on here. I see both sides of it. You don't want to coach a bunch of kids up that aren't going to ever play at your high school.
No, but I mean,
also,
who knows if they would have stayed or not?
If we're open enrollment in our district, we should be open. I feel like we should be open enrollment down there because I know for a fact that some of them had planned on staying once their kid got to the junior high school level. Because you're still talking about kids that are in elementary schools, and that were for I know one particular family, that child being in Asheville City School District at the time,
it just worked for
it
them.
worked for
Yeah,
their
and
work
that right.
schedule.
Okay.
So
So we're bouncing around a lot because this is so messy that
it's
it's
a
hard
lot.
to keep track of.
Sorry.
Okay, so I mentioned some of the nominations, but the whole bylaw thing. The bylaws for the new league that they turned into WYFL instead of BCMFL. The stipulation of closing the league, unless you'd been there for 2 years. I only know of a few people who had been there for 2 years, and they attended the same church, and they were friends. And that saved their friends from having to leave the league. That's weird. That's really weird. So, nominations. I lose vice president to Josh Newhart, who's friends and church goers. Treasurer comes up, and Joe Cato was already asked to be that by Ryan Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that Joe would be great at it. And I thought, they want him. I'm not even trying to run against him because he's a good guy and he needs to stay on this board because he can help clean this up. He's going to start to see the truth of what's happening.
He was on my coaching
and I'm not
staff.
Speaking on behalf of Joe at all, so don't take it that way. I'm
Nope.
not. So he became treasurer. Secretary comes up. Nobody wants it. They didn't realize that Sam was stepping down, and they freaked out when she walked in with her stuff and handed it over because they thought they were going to keep her, and she was done with all of their stuff, not doing it anymore. And I can speak on that because she would tell me that it's okay too, because she would sit here and tell you herself. Maybe she will eventually. So, secretary, I get nominated. I accept the nomination. Ryan Wilson looks at Michelle Petro and he said something to her like, well, Michelle, I can't remember. It was so disrespectful. No, it wasn't. It was so disrespectful. Like, if you're the best we can get is how it felt. And I can't remember the verbiage he used. And I'm just laughing at this point because they're doing everything they can to make sure I cannot be on this board anymore.
I think that they actually asked me if I would take a nomination. I said, I'm just here to coach football.
I don't remember what it was for. Maybe the safety. I don't know.
Something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you could tell she was embarrassed by the way he said it to her. She accepted the nomination, and I'm just like cackling at this point because they totally worked it all out ahead of time. Now, she wasn't staying on the board. She was done. But because nobody was running against me, she stayed on the board to make sure that I couldn't be there anymore. So then there was like a couple other positions. Was it like members at large, safety officer? I don't remember. It's 7 total. I don't know. At that point, I stopped listening because I'm just like, great, let's see what happens from here. And it's been a mess since then. So they got their board. It was made up of, I mean, there's a couple people who weren't on the varsity team with them. But some of them still went to their church and they were friends. So they have complete control because they're not going to go against each other. And that's the current situation that the board is in right now because it's being run by that group of individuals. There's been no meetings made public until recently. All of the business has been conducted however they want to. Now, if you're not going to make a public meeting, public knowledge, make a meeting public knowledge, nobody should be in attendance other than board members. And there were spouses who were involved that were not members of the board. Now, if you're going to allow your spouses to come, you need to make all of the public aware of the fact that you're conducting business because this league is owned by the community. It's a community league and it's being run like it belongs to the board, like it's their money and it's their decision and it's their this and it's their that. And it's for the good of what? Like that's the part that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm seeing clearly that I got a mark put on me because I talked to the mom of this young man who got booted out of our league because I didn't trust Ryan Wilson. I don't trust him. I don't have proof of everything, but I feel like it's forthcoming. The league is out of compliance with the state of Ohio again because taxes haven't been filed since 2022. So we currently, the league's looking at losing its 501c3 status. And like the biggest reason that I want to talk about all of this is like I have sat in a few meetings because of people pushing for them to be made public. And I have listened to Ryan Wilson take questions and walk in circles around it with his answer, never answering the question, never giving the information that people want. These meetings have all been recorded. I have meetings that are recorded that date back to when I first started attending meetings. So it's not something he can easily get out from under and say he didn't do, because I actually have the proof of all of that stuff. And if I don't have it, other people who were in attendance have it, and they're willing to share it as well. It's so much that I like lose track of where I'm going with all of it. We don't know where our money stands. We don't know where our league stands. Like I know that fundraising cash came in and it wasn't accounted for correctly. There's no paper trail on things. You know, people just like write checks and whatever. I can't speak on all of that because I'm not on the board anymore, so I don't know details. And at this point, I'm hearing things from people and not knowing all of it. But I think that we're in a scary situation. And I think that everybody in the community who's affiliated with this program needs to be concerned. I do.
Yeah, I mean, I had numbers are way down. Numbers were way down this year. And you can always chalk some of it up to, what's the word I'm looking for?
I'm sorry, I'm just making notes for myself.
Generational gap. But I ran a team this year with 16 kids and only 15 could play.
When we had 2 teams at the JV level last year, we lost that many kids. And people don't realize that. These kids didn't get an opportunity to properly learn the game of football because prior to us, they weren't coached well. Maybe it's their first year of playing football. And there's not enough kids to even run offense versus defense. So they weren't getting to do that until we were in a game on Saturday.
Yeah.
So by the end of the season, they got better, but they didn't get as good as they should have been.
We were literally playing 7-on-7 with no linemen, basically.
Yeah, they didn't get the opportunity to get as good as they should have been.
But it doesn't matter if I had 11 or if I had 22. I was going to coach them all the same way, and I did. It's just rough. They don't get the full experience without.
No, because the league is being damaged by. I mean, I have heard this so many times from different people in the community, and it's not me. I'm not going to say something that's not true. I'm not going to say something to just stir things up. Everything I'm saying is for a reason. And people in the community have said they don't want to be involved or affiliated because of the leadership there. And you've heard that from different places than I've heard it from. And I've had to say to parents, please just sign your kids up. Give him a chance. You know, he's the coach this year, so give him a chance and let's see what we can do. It's going to be a great year because there's all this chaos that was going on around us all year. But while we were on that field, we were focusing on our 15, 16 kids that we had.
Yeah.
And what we were there to do.
I've said it. I'm not there for the politics of any of it. I'm there for the kids and the development of the kids. Football oriented.
And I'm so baffled by all of it because what are you getting out of this? Like, what are they getting out of doing this? It's like he's on a power trip and he's having control issues and he thinks that, what did he say to you? When you guys talked and he was going to tell you, hang on a second, I want you to say all of it, but let me finish what I'm saying first so you can talk. When he was telling you that you were going to be the head coach this year. Is that the point where he said something about his name?
Yeah, that's when I realized that, as you said, that's when I realized that I had a target on my back too. So there was a meeting that I was asked to be involved in where he told me that I was going to be the head coach for the JV. Um, and that every dad that filled out a coaching application, they were not going to tell nobody no. I had to take all of them. And I said, that's not how that's done. Once the head coach is appointed, the head coach gets to choose his coaching staff. It's how it's always been.
Always.
He said, no, we're not turning people away. So you have to take all these people. Now, mind you, one of the people that I had to take, I wasn't fond of at all. He had said some things, the year prior, and very rubbed me the wrong way. In all honesty, I said I disagree with that, but whatever. I'll do what I can. Because you got to remember too, as a head coach, you take on people that don't really know football or don't have, like, they may have the heart to want to be there and help and coach, but if they don't know the coaching part, not only am I coaching the children, I'm also coaching my coaching staff and how to be a coach.
Yeah, like your expectations and how
Yes.
you want the team to be coached.
So in this particular conversation, I said that I disagreed, but whatever. I was also informed at that point that Brock could no longer be my play caller.
This is why I brought up the point of him asking about him getting a coach's shirt the previous year.
And I said, he's been my OC for the last years. He brings down the high school plays. He goes over all this with the kids. He calls the plays because he can call the plays and read a defense. Sometimes, most of the time, quicker than even I can. Why is he not allowed on the field? Well, he's a high school student and he's only a mentor. I'm like, he's more of a coach than most coaches. And I'm not going to lie, that this conversation,
you were irritated over
it started to get a little heated. I kept my composure for the most part. Now, we were not the only two in this room.
That doesn't matter.
So, long story short on that deal.
Well, the mentoring thing. Remember the paper that we were given?
So they apparently
had a meeting.
So we gotta stop because that's a little further ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So then we have a coaches meeting at the high school with all the league coaches. And I meet the one new head coach. The other assistant that's going to be on my squad. Prior to that meeting, just before that meeting started, the one guy that I was forced to take actually called me and said, my work schedule has changed. I am going to have to bow out of coaching. Okay, no problem. So now I meet this other gentleman that I don't know. So I do know that him and Mr. Wilson are friends. So
surprise, surprise, somebody told me they all go to the same church.
I'm going to use this opportunity after this meeting. I'm going to use this opportunity, and I'm not going to lie about it. I totally used him to see if he was going to run back and tell Ryan anything that I said.
I didn't know this, what he was having.
So we walk out of this particular meeting, and we're talking. I'm talking with all the coaches, and I say in this conversation, I tell my coach that was with me last year, he doesn't want Brock. Brock's not allowed to call plays this year. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And I said, so he doesn't want him on the field. I won't put him on the field, but I will let him call plays to you from the sideline. That's what I said. A couple days later,
I don't even think it was a couple days.
It might have been the next day
because we're at practice.
At a conditioning practice, I get pulled away from my team at the end of the night, and Wilson brings this conversation up. Now, with this particular coach, and
I didn't tell him about it, and our other coach didn't tell him about it.
no.
And that
So
guy was the only other one there.
I knew right then and there that I was forced to take somebody, and I'll tell you, just like I said to
I'm
him,
so tired of hearing you say this, though. Tell me.
I had to take him because he's your damn spy. That's exactly what I said to him. Now, in this conversation, I believe this conversation lasted for a good 30 minutes. And I'm not going to lie, it got downright heated.
He was pressing you, though. I realized at that point that he was pressing you to try to make you react like that so that he could say you were aggressive and look for a reason to get rid of you.
Yeah.
But also, they asked you to be the head coach. They voted for you to be the head coach. And then they started looking for issues to tell you you couldn't be the head coach.
Yeah. Trying to, as I said to him when I was heated, you are trying to make me a puppet on your string. And I'm not that guy. And as a matter of fact, I said, I've been around the block a few times.
I feel that so much. I think because we wouldn't fall in line with his narrative like the rest of them, he wanted to get rid of us. Because we went against whatever he was trying to do for himself. Whatever he's doing, I don't care what he says to you. He stares at you and he nods his head when he talks to you to get you to convince you that he's a good guy. He smiles. No. He doesn't break eye contact.
I'm not going to get into it in this episode, but there were 2 other times throughout this season where we had these same
kind of conversations,
discussions.
Yeah, that we'll touch base on.
We'll touch base on that later.
So all this happened with that coach. You got in trouble in the middle of the field, and you were straightforward with him, and you said directly to him, and it doesn't make sense to me because like he's an adult, like we're adults, and he should have come to you and he should have said, "Hey, so and so said that you said. Can we talk about that?" Instead, he and spins in circles around what needs to be said instead of being direct and saying, "Chuck, you shouldn't have said that." Because as the president of the league, that was his responsibility to say to you, this is what the board decided, and this is how it needs to be. But not everybody's meant to be a leader because they're not always great at it.
So, I abided by the rule until the last game. On the last game, I put our son on the field because I gave my other coach, I gave him ample time.
Yeah, and it was fine. And more than anything, it gave Brock the opportunity he deserved because you rotated them too.
Yep. So
between plays, they were both up there.
I put him on the field, and no slight to my other coach, but we were able to move the ball efficiently in our last game.
And it's just Brock's football IQ. It's his knowledge.
And it could be how he talks to them in the huddle.
So many different factors.
And those kids, they see him on Friday nights on the field, and they look up to him. They want to be him. And that's what so that is the true definition of a mentor. And as a coach, kids that young, you're hoping that you're doing the right thing and
the mentor thing.
The right, because even as a head coach, you're still a mentor.
Yes. So the mentor thing.
So
that was the thing. So
they literally had an emergency meeting.
I don't know if it was emergency. Was it an emergency meeting?
They had an emergency parking lot meeting at the high school.
Where all they did was talk about our son. Because he's the only mentor for the whole football program.
For the last 2-3 years.
And they built a document about what Brock was allowed to do.
Right. Now, funny part is, in this document, nowhere in this document says, he can't call plays.
Right.
And he can't be on the field.
Right.
None of that
is in their document. They forgot.
So they spent 2 hours or more going over this, and you
I don't know how much time
this document up, and it to me, it made no sense. But you only did it because it was my son. And my wife and I have
opinion,
a target.
You guys. That's opinion. This is my opinion. Based on everything we've gone through here.
Because we have targets, because we won't bow to your
whatever. I don't even know what. I don't know what it is.
Or go along with, or drink your Kool-Aid. Now you want to attack my son, who is there on his own behalf, because as he
Who's
said
a
to
senior
me,
in high school who has so much going on.
as he said to me, I'm down there because I want these boys to get better coaching than I got. And I'm going to tell you right now, at first time that was said to me, it kind of was a kick in the teeth, because I have been that kid's coach, either his coach of some sort or his head coach, since the age of 5 years old. But you know what? Sometimes you got to step outside the box, and I had to progress. I had to catch up with football,
Mm-hmm.
because when I was coaching him, I was coaching old school football that I was coached when I played. And the game evolves so fast that you have to keep up on things. And that's what I'm doing now with my younger son's age group. Is I am fully capable now of bringing that stuff down, and I'm still learning every year and going to coaching clinics to be able to coach them better. But now you take away the one thing that my son truly
Well, he
loves.
loves those boys.
And he loves, like, you're talking about a kid at the end of last year who was 16 years old. And he says to me, "It's over, Dad. It's over. Like, this season's over. And I love these kids, and I'm going to miss this time." I'm like, "Brock, we got next year." Well, now fast forward to next year, and now you're telling him right before season starts, that he can't be on the field, he can't be a coach, he can't be the OC. But the year prior to that, you're asking my wife about a coach's shirt, not a mentor shirt.
Here's the part where it gets really messy. My cousin's daughter, and she told me, she brought this up to me when they started doing this to my son. My cousin's daughter was a cheer coach, not a mentor, a cheer coach, when she was in 7th grade, because they were short on coaches. 7th grade as a cheer coach. Same board, same people involved. So why is it so different now? The excuse we'd probably be given is the changes made, or we would be told that the high school recommended that, because that's his excuse for everything. Yeah. He always blames it on the high school. We're not affiliated to the district. We're not a district program. The high school doesn't have anything to do with our youth program. They should be mentoring us, which is what Brock was doing, which is what some cheerleaders were doing.
Yep. And kudos to those kids that take that time to come down there. My son and his best friend this year, came down on a regular basis.
Same last year. He and Thomas were there.
And last year.
And Thomas fell in love with those kids too.
And Devin came down this year and fell in love with these kids and had a good time.
They had so much fun, because the season was rough for all of our kids. But when Brock and Devin would come over after their practice, they would run the drills with them, and they would be on the field, and those kids would laugh. And I remember one of the boys tackling Devin so hard, he sent him flying and his shoes flew off. And I said, "You're not actually allowed to hit him. We can't do that." But they just had a really great time because of our boys coming from the high school and being involved with them.
I didn't know that they would be asking her in that 30 minutes when I was coming. Like, they knew that I had to finish my high school practice first, and then I would.
Oh yeah, is Coach Chuck coming today?
Yeah.
And they'd be heartbroken, like, because there was times where you stayed at work because we had to get caught up on things, and you didn't go to anybody's practice that day.
Right. Which didn't happen very often, I think, a couple times, because once I'm devoted to the kids, I'm devoted to the kids. If that means I have to go back to work after getting done with practices at 8:30 at night, I've done that, and I will continue to do that.
The fact that the season was rough for our team because we didn't have enough players to help them progress faster. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
We didn't show up any different, though. We showed up and we loved them and we taught them, and, we tried to give them the best experience that we could give them with what we had to give them, Right. But I think that they all knew how loved that they were, and that we were there for them. We were there to support them, that they mattered to us. I think we made that impact on them. I just hope that they weren't so bummed by the end of the season that we never won a game and we barely scored any points all season.
It was a
that
very
they
rough
don't
year.
want to give next year a chance, because I think it's really important that they give it another go.
I mean,
I just hope.
it was
I have that hope.
It was so much of a rough year that how many times I say, "What am I doing wrong?"
And
Well,
it wasn't anything to do with you, though.
and it wasn't. It just
Like, we tried everything. We did everything. I said to you, please go to each kid and ask them when they're in their position, what exactly are you supposed to do? And we did that on offense and defense.
And I spent an
they
entire
understood it.
breaking it down for
Yes.
each individual player in their position.
And they understood what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But still, when they went on the field to play their game, that was the first time that they were standing in front of an entire team. And they never had time to work out the bugs.
Right. Right.
It wasn't fair to them.
Because it's one thing to go against a hitting drill and a tackling drill with your teammate that you've been with for X amount of weeks. But it's when you line up against, I don't know that kid. He looks bigger than me.
Right.
Like you start telling yourself, I can't do this.
Yep.
And that's not just at the youth level. I have run across this even at the high school level where kids are like unsure.
Right. But we did watch them advance and we did watch them develop into better football players than they were when we first started. And that's the goal of all of it.
Yes. Even had to coach some bad habits that were coached and allowed in a couple of kids the year previous.
Yeah.
And,
like a crackback?
Like a crackback block and some chop blocking. And it's like, you can't do that. I said, who told you to do that? Well, my coach last year. I'm like, no, you cannot do that. You're going to hurt yourself or hurt another person.
Yeah.
And I will never coach dirty football. If anything, I've probably been beaten more times than not because I abide by the rule that everybody finds the gray area in. I will not teach or coach dirty play football to any kid, not at that level and not at the high school level.
Okay, we've jumped around a lot and it's been a lot. So I think right now we kind of need to end this one, see where we're at with everything, and just kind of go from there and see what else there is.
So we'll get back into the other coach that I had to take, the spy, and we'll continue on with that conversation
because of the issues that
it gets a little different. It gets a little.
We'll see. Yeah. I mean, some things just aren't worth talking about. So we might not discuss that one.
Yeah.
But it does kind of bring forth more of what
to me
Ryan Wilson was using to try to. I mean, we have to talk about that. The 90-minute parking lot meeting where the board sat there and discussed our family solely and how his wife and two members of the board basically were trying to find a way to get rid of us is what I was told happened. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, can't say for sure that that's what they did, but I can say that I wouldn't be surprised if it was the truth, unfortunately. So, we're going to end this here now. We'll pick it back up.